This conference will now be recorded.
Hello, everybody. Jordan Girth here from the National Weather Service Office of Observations. Thank you for joining us for the Satellite Book Club Seminar Series today. This is session number 63. Hope your summer is going well. Back to school season just around the corner. Today's presentation, Color Vision Deficiency and Interpreting Satellite RGBs, Current Research and Future Opportunities. Our presenter, Dr. Katie Crandall, research scientist, Cooperative Institute for Mesoscale Meteorological Studies, and the NWS Operations Proving Ground. I should say that's Dr. Katie Crandall Vigil. Our facilitator is Dr. Chad Gravel, Techniques Development Meteorologist with the Science and Technology Services Division at the National Weather Service Southern Region Headquarters. Just a few reminders before we get started. As always, the session is being recorded, so your colleagues that are on shift can catch this at a time that is opportune for them. We'll have Q&A after the presentation, so please post your questions in the chat and Chad will field them in the order they are asked. And then we are always looking for future presenters, so if you have an application that you'd like to share with the NWS field, we'd love to have you as part of this long-running Satellite Book Club seminar series. And the training team can help create materials that may be unavailable or you may be unaware of. Brian Mott, the Office of Chief Learning Officer, can take your questions regarding that. I'd like to thank, as always, our Tower S team, particularly Kashad Bowman and Lee Byerly, for their support, as well as the Office of the Chief Learning Officer and the GOZAR and JPSS programs. Without further ado, I'd like to formally introduce Dr. Katie Crandall Vigil, who's originally from Broomfield, Colorado, and graduated with her bachelor's in meteorology from Metropolitan State University in Denver in 2007. In 2008, she went to Columbia, Missouri, where she completed a master's in 2010 and her Ph.D. in atmospheric science in 2015. Her dissertation work centered on a climatological analysis and societal impacts of severe winter storms in Missouri from 1960 to 2010, and has been a research scientist with the Cooperative Institute for Mesoscale Meteorological Studies, CIMMS, and the NWS OPG in Kansas City since October of 2014. So Katie, welcome to the Satellite Book Club today.
Thank you, Jordan. Thank you for the great introduction and for everyone allowing me to do this presentation and to speak to you about what color vision deficiency is, how it impacts forecasters, and especially when interpreting satellite RGBs. Also want to thank Emily Burnt with NASA Sports. She helped a lot with being able to create a new RGB that was useful for color vision deficiency, and then all just the support from the OPG, everyone of the staff, and that has made this research possible. All right. Okay, so the first thing is, what is color vision deficiency? It's an inability to distinguish certain shades of color. I think sometimes when we hear color blindness, we think, oh, they can't see shades of color. That's not exactly what it is. It's just certain shades end up being harder to see than other shades, depending on the contrast that you are given. It's an X-linked recessive disorder, and I'll explain that more in a moment. 8% of men with Northern European ancestry have color vision deficiency, but only 0.5% of women with Northern European ancestry have color vision deficiency. And there's currently no cure for inherited CVD. The reason why there's more men that have color vision deficiency than women is because, as I said, it's an X-linked recessive disorder. But so basically, genetically, a genetic male will typically have an XY chromosome. A genetic female will have an XX chromosomes. We get our X chromosome from our mother. We get either the X or Y chromosome from our father. So women have two X chromosomes. So typically, if there is a mutation on the X chromosome that leads to color vision deficiency, the other X chromosome will compensate and a woman won't have color vision deficiency. Now for men, they only have the one X chromosome. So if there's a mutation on the X chromosome from their mother for color vision deficiency, they don't have anything else to compensate for it, and then they will have color vision deficiency. There are various forms of color vision deficiency. If you look on the left, that's what normal color vision looks like if you don't have color vision deficiency. The next one is deuteranopia, and then followed by protanopia. Those are the most common. They're red-green color vision deficiencies, and they're the most common. The next one is tritanopia. It's a blue-yellow color vision deficiency. It's very rare, and so is achromatopsia, which is that where you see only grayscales. Both of those are super rare. So we're only going to focus, on deuteranopia and protanopia because that's the most common forms of color vision deficiency. And as you can see, if you look at the images compared to what it looks like for a normal color vision image, you can see that especially the orange and the red and green ends up being very hard to see the distinguish between the two. Same for protanopia. You just don't see those colors very well, especially when they're right next to each other. They tend to blend. So that's why we say it's a red-green color vision deficiency. Those two colors are the hardest to interpret if you have color vision deficiency. So the start of this was in 2017, the Operations Proving Ground did a color vision deficiency evaluation. What we wanted to find out was what RGBs, especially since we had newly launched GOES-R satellite, we wanted to know what RGBs would be difficult for forecasters with color vision deficiency to interpret because they're a set display. It's not supposed to be edited. It's not supposed to be changed like radar images or other color maps. It's going to be set. So we wanted to figure out what was going to cause issues for them when looking at satellite RGBs. We had 3 men that agreed to come and participate in this evaluation. They all had moderate to severe color, red-green color vision deficiency. And so what we did is we had a week-long evaluation where we looked at all different types of RGBs that have recently been released and been developed for the National Weather Service. And we just put them through basically a typical evaluation of how they would use it, how they would interpret it. And we had a lot of different technology that we used to kind of identify what RGBs would cause issues for these forecasters. We had something called an application called Colorblind Pal. It was an application that's on iOS and that's also on Android. Basically, that's that image on the left where basically what it'll do is when you look through the screen through the image, it'll actually change the image so it makes it more easier for them to interpret. The test that they're taking there is a typical test used to determine if you have color vision deficiency. And interesting with that app, they were actually able to pass the test because the app actually converts the colors and they were able actually to do that. So we had that application to use. The middle photo where it's me where I'm wearing these glasses, these are called Enchroma glasses. And they're especially designed glasses that are meant to help anyone with color vision deficiency be able to pick out colors better, increase contrast. It just helps things to be more vibrant. So we had the forecasters test those out, see what they thought of those glasses, and see if they help them to interpret anything. And then I'm also wearing eye tracker glasses where we had them then go through the eval, and the eye tracker would determine where are they looking, how much time they spent on different images. And then on the far right is also just what output from that app was, that colorblind app, and ways that you can actually bring out certain colors. Like on that image, it's only showing the red and orange and everything else is in grayscale. So that was a really valuable evaluation, and we learned some really important things. So what we found out is there's a couple different RGBs that were really difficult to interpret. One was the air mass RGB, and one was the simple water vapor RGB. So we decided to focus our efforts on the air mass RGB to see if we could actually do edits to it to make it more easy for people with color vision deficiency to interpret. So I teamed up with Emily Burton and NASA Sport, and basically we went into the code for the air mass RGB and we swapped the red and blue gun to make it basically, instead of being these kind of orange and red colors within the RGB, we swapped it to be blue. So if you look on the left is the old air mass RGB and then the new air mass RGB. And so you can see the color differences between the two. And typically shades of blue are usually easier for people with color vision deficiency to interpret. An interesting fact is actually that's why Facebook tends to be all in blues, is because Mark Zuckerberg has color vision deficiency. So he created the website to be more easy for him to view it. Okay. This is a view of the original air mass RGB, and I'll kind of go back and forth between the slides, because if you look at the one previous on the left, you can see what the original air mass RGB is. This is what it looks like to someone that has color vision deficiency, either deuteranopia, the green weak, or the red protanopia. So you can see where it kind of gets very difficult, especially to see just the color differences. and everything just kind of blends in. This is the view for them with the new air mass RGB. This is what they would view. And you see a lot of more contrast differences. It's easier to pick out those differences than you had before. So this is what basically we had a simulation that was able to show us what it would look like for people with color vision deficiency, but we needed to see what forecasters that actually have color vision deficiency thought of this new air mass RGB and how they would interpret it. So we actually did a whole survey. We tried to contact as many people in the field as possible. Color vision deficiency actually is not that rare in the Weather Service. We estimate you could probably have maybe one person in office that could end up having it. So it was like 100 to 200 people in the Weather Service could have color vision deficiency. So we had 23 male NWS respondents with color vision deficiency. 22 of them had deuteranopia or protanopia.
Katie,
So yes?
before you go on, who was the survey sent to?
It was sent to the science and operation officers.
Okay, so we only got 22 to respond. Is that correct, basically?
Yes, well, 23, but then 22 that were just deuteranopia and protanopia.
Right, got it. Thank you.
Yes. Yes, and it's also, you have to be a little careful with, color vision deficiency is not considered a disability. However, it is a medical issue. So we had to be really careful on, getting people to actually, do a survey, to do results. We made promises that, no one would know who you are, no one would know your identity, because there's still people in the Weather Service that do feel that they would be discriminated against if their colleagues knew that they had color vision deficiency. They're afraid people would think that they can't do their job well, or they, since they can't see certain colors, that it would cause issues. It's becoming, it seems like more people are more open to talking about their color vision deficiency, but there are still people that would rather this not be public. So that also, we maybe didn't get as many respondents as well, just because they didn't feel comfortable being a part of this research. So of those respondents, those 22 respondents that had deuteranopia or protanopia, 20 of them felt that the air mass RGB was at least slightly easier to interpret. 40%, 8 of those respondents felt that the new air mass RGB was slightly easier to interpret, and then another 40% said that it was moderately easier to interpret, and then 20% felt that it was significantly easier to interpret. So it was at least an easier to interpret RGB. The issue that you come up with color vision deficiency and trying to create an RGB that works for everyone is that color vision deficiency is a range. It's not just a specific, oh, you have color vision deficiency, this is how much color you can see. You have a range where someone might have a slight amount of color vision deficiency, or they might have a severe amount of color vision deficiency. So it really just kind of varies. So you're not going to be able to completely get something that's going to work for everyone. So you're trying to find something that's going to work for the majority of people. And that's what we're kind of hoping with this new air mass RGB, that it will at least be useful for a decent subset of people with color vision deficiency, also to the public as well, as if you ever share this imagery, that they would be able to interpret it better. So where do we go from here? So we already created that new air mass RGB, but we're looking for other air RGBs that we could possibly edit that could possibly be beneficial for people with color vision deficiency. So we're trying to maybe contact some forecasters, kind of see what we could use, what could be something new that we can investigate. There's something also that we discovered that when we were doing these evaluations called the composite options tool. There's a lot of debate about this. From a perspective for the RGBs, you're supposed to not do anything. You're not supposed to edit the RGBs at all. They're supposed to be standalone. They've been calibrated to be a certain, certain colors mean certain things. And if you mess that up, you're going to mess up the RGB. However, we have found forecasters, especially forecasters with color vision deficiency, have been using the composite options tool to make edits to RGBs for them to see things easier. Even forecasters without color vision deficiency have been using this. What we would like to have is training on how to use it properly. This is what you can do in the confines of this tool without completely messing up the RGB. So that's something we still want to look into, is what kind of training could be done, what can be done with that composite options tool to maybe help forecasters out, and make that available and make that useful for them. Something that I've been working on and is kind of moving forward is color tables for various graphics in NWS. There's talk about trying to make graphics more, friendly for people with color vision deficiency. I've already done presentations for like Pleasant Hill here in Kansas City on just when they make story maps or graphics, what are colors that you want to avoid, how you want to set up your graphics so that it's easier for people with color vision deficiency. And then something I wanted to talk to, basically have an open forum with the audience here today, is ideas from you of where we can go with this research. What could be the next step? What RGBs should we look at? And see if anyone wanted to chime in on that. So there's still a lot of research that can be done, but the goal is just to make things easier for people with color vision deficiency. I've actually had forecasters, someone came up to me and said, thank you for doing this work. No one really is looking into this for us because it is a small set of people, but it's important to them and they want to be able to interpret these satellite RGBs. They want to be able to do their job well, and whatever tools we can give them is super useful and I think just a very worthwhile thing to do. Something that was really neat too, when I was doing this presentation a while back in one of the courses, it was a social science course, one of the forecasters got really super excited about that color vision deficiency colorblind PAL app. I asked him, well, what are you so excited for? He's like, every morning my wife sets out my clothes for me because sometimes I can't tell what colors go with what and what looks correct. He's like, I don't need her to do it now. This app, I can point it to the clothing and it tells me what color it is, so I know what can go together. Something so small that you don't think of can have a big impact for someone. So that's what really drives me to do this research, is that I think it's very helpful. I think anytime we can be more inclusive, we can help people be able to see things better, to understand things better, is very worthwhile. So thank you for listening to this presentation, and I'm really interested in hearing what the audience thinks and if we can come up with some ideas for future research.
Yeah, thanks, Katie. And for those of you who are on, we're going to have a discussion. We'll have some Q&A, with Katie for maybe, I don't know, maybe 15, 20 minutes. But before we do that, a few housekeeping notes. Next week, on August 26th at noon Eastern Time, Jeremy Michael from the WFO in Tucson, Arizona, is going to discuss using satellite imagery to enhance monsoon operations for basically their area across southeastern Arizona. And the other thing I'd like to remind everyone is please contact the Tower S team, in particular Lee Byerly and Kashad Bowman, for questions about the Satellite Book Club or configuration of satellite products, or even if you have an idea of someone that may make a really great Satellite Book Club guest. Okay, so with that, we have a bunch of questions in the chat, and we'll get to those. Katie, how many? Remind me, how many men have some kind of color deficiency? Did you say it was like 7 or 8%?
It's about 8% with Northern European ancestry. So that's specifically where that mutation took place within that subgroup of people. So that's with that ancestry. That's why typically Weather Service tends to have a higher amount, just because we have more people with that background.
So if you think about like, let's just estimate, ballpark, estimate, if there's 1,200 operational METs in the Weather Service, 80%, about 1,000 are men.
Mm-hmm.
And then, 7 or 8, let's say 8% of those, which would be about, what is that? Someone keep me honest, like 80?
Yeah.
Right? 80-ish have color deficiency.
We did
got 23 responses.
Yeah.
Like, what can you before we start asking these in particular questions, 23 doesn't seem like a lot, but when you break down the numbers, 23 out of 80 is actually pretty high. But how do you get more, Katie? Like, how do you get more people to respond? Do you think people were hesitant to respond to a survey like this? Can you talk about some of those things?
I think there was a combination of some hesitancy, some it might just not have reached everyone. We know that kind of happens sometimes. Sometimes we send surveys out to management, and for whatever reason, it might not trickle down to every forecaster. So that might be an issue. There is the part where some people just aren't comfortable with talking about it yet, or just don't really want to be a part of that research. I met a couple forecasters that were like that. So it's hard to really know and gauge. This is something where it's, the best route I think is to try to make this as visible as possible, that this research is happening, so that people know it and know that they can contact us, and that this is a safe place. We're never going to, say who they are, their background if they don't want to, but we want their opinions and their, viewpoint of what they're seeing. We do have quite a few forecasters that are with color vision deficiency that are very vocal about this, that are happy to talk about this research, that are doing their own edits to RGBs, things like that. So I think it's just trying to get that, it out that this research is happening, and hopefully then they feel comfortable coming forward and, participating in this. So I was just happy that we got that many people that we did. I mean, it's a small subsection, but it's a small group of people anyway. So
JJ, did you have a question, or did you want me to, because I saw you pop up on camera?
Oh, I was just popping up because I thought everybody would really appreciate seeing my beautiful face. No, I'm kidding. I'm here to support Katie, and so I didn't have a specific question, but when you were talking about the number of people in the Weather Service that possibly have this challenge, it really made me think, holy cow! First of all, I didn't know the number was that high, and second of all, satellite interpretation is such a key aspect of our jobs and our ability to provide quality information that I can't imagine what challenges they face and how difficult it must be. So I'm very proud of the work you're doing, the work you have done, and you're continuing to do, and to help folks analyze the weather in a way that makes sense for them.
So yeah, I agree completely, JJ. It's really interesting and fascinating. And when I was at the Operations Proving Ground, Katie was kind of working on this too, and it's pretty interesting. And one of the questions in the chat is, I wonder if we could develop user-specific RGBs with tuning factors that account for a specific user's condition. And the reason why Steve's asked this, I think, is because you had talked about there's being different degrees of color deficiency, even with those classifications, right? For lack of a better word. So what do you think about that? 80, let's just remember, we're doing the numbers, we're ballparking, but 80 to 100 isn't a lot of people. Like, you could easily have people sign up, right? And like if they really were interested in in getting some specific, like this is JJ's RGB, right? We could make that happen. I'm just wondering, what are your comments on that question from Steve?
So it's something I would really be interested in. We have some limitations in what we can do to the RGBs. That's where I really need to have another meeting with NASA Sport, go down there and talk about what we can possibly do with the RGBs. The color options tool is a really interesting tool that we could employ for this, where we could, get forecasters together and get Emily together and people that know what you can do with the composite options tool, what you can't do, and find out where we can make those changes, where then it could be kind of individually calibrated per person. What we did was like a large scale code change where we swapped the guns. There's no like gradient on that, but it's possible with that composite options tool. And that's something I think it said almost need like a working group of forecasters, color vision deficiency, that want to take a look at this and see about basically how can we calibrate it for each person specifically. And then there's some neat things that this colorblind pal app kind of was really cool, where you can hold it up, and what it'll do is it'll take an image and let me show you back to the image that, okay. the one on the far right, I thought it was really interesting. What it does is it basically takes, so the color, it's only showing you red and orange. Everything else is gray. And that's just a really interesting concept anyway for just anyone, even if you have color vision deficiency, where let's say you're looking for a very specific signal, like you're looking for fog, and you're looking like in the nighttime microphysics RGB, and you're looking for like the cyan color. Wouldn't it be amazing if all of a sudden everything grays out and you just show that one color? So it's interesting thoughts of what we could possibly do with RGBs just to make them easier to interpret for everyone, where it's, you know, if you're looking for very specific things, that's what pops out. The biggest thing for people with color vision deficiency is contrast. It's just that things don't pop very well. It's hard to see sometimes differences. If you can make things have more contrast, show up more, it's just a lot easier to view. So I really would love that idea. I think it's just we need to maybe create a working group of forecasters with color vision deficiency that are interested in this, and then help them to develop these RGBs.
Okay, cool. Yeah. I think it would be super interesting for sure. I'm going to kind of go out of order here on purpose, but Curtis Seaman talks about the Dayland Cloudfire RGB. So that one, I think it's got in the red gun, it's got 2.2. It just allows like fires to pop a little more, but it's red fires against basically a green background. This question is, I'm curious as how this impacts users with CVD. Did you guys, and I don't remember, did you guys receive feedback on that particular RGB, the fire detection version? Because there are two versions of that RGB.
So we did have a fire weather RGB that we looked at during the eval, but this was back in 2017, and things have changed a lot. They were able to interpret it. They were able to see the hotspots, but I also don't remember what the background was. If it was more of a, if it ended up being more brownish kind of in the background, or gray compared to like a green. So I think we'd almost have to do this again with the newer, more, you know, the changed RGBs to see basically how well they can interpret it. So as I said, things progress so quickly that we almost need to have another one where we have, even if it's virtual and not in person, where we take a look at now the RGBs that we have that people are using now to see how they interpret it. I would think though, if you have a green background and red, that would be difficult. So
Yeah, right, exactly. So, you know, one of the Steve Miller comments about this in the chat, that like they have this Deborah dust product, and Katie, I don't know if you're familiar with this one, but it's basically, it's grayscale background, and the dust is shades of light yellow to you know, and Steve can correct me if I'm wrong, but it's basically lighter yellow to, and darker yellow isn't more vibrant yellow. When the vibrant's probably the best, you know, the best word I can use, as the presence of dust is increasing, or the confidence is higher, right? So my question is, saturation, that's what I was looking for. So my question is, yellow on top of a grayscale, do you think that's okay based on your knowledge, or do you think it would be okay? Obviously, we're not like polling any CVD people, or because this is pretty flexible with that RGB, should another color be on top of that grayscale that would allow the contrast to pop even more? Because that's one of the great things about that RGB is you can, along with others, but you can easily change what color that is. So what are your thoughts on a color on top of grayscale?
You know, I almost, you know, anything that's going to be more vibrant is going to be better. I actually don't like to just automatically say what something is going to be, but the great thing is, so in that reference list, that top one I have is this color blindness simulator. It's really cool where I could just take a screenshot of the RGB and I run it through the simulator and it tells me what it looks like to someone with deuteranopia or protanopia. That's what I think maybe a next step that I can just do even on my own is take these, basically what RGBs we're using now, and run it through the simulator to see if we can identify ones that might be difficult before we even contact forecasters. So that's something, anything that could be more vibrant is going to be better. That has more contrast is going to be easier to see.
Okay, good. Let's switch gears a little and talk about training.
Mm-hmm.
You know, Scott Lindstrom asked a good question here, and he says, what kind of training on the new RGB interpretation was developed? Like, for example, if you think about like the air mass RGB,
Mm-hmm.
right? You know, what did you do, you know, kind of to, you know, to help those people, you know, make the connection a little easier? Was a new quick guide developed, or what ended up going into that?
We didn't develop a new quick guide, but it is something that I kind of want to put together because really all it did was it didn't really assign like different all it did was switch colors out. So the quick guide should be able to still work if we basically run it through and basically create it to look like the new image. So it's something I need to do, but from looking at it, you should be able to interpret it the same way. It's just now a different color for it than before. So it should be able to be interpreted the same way, but that is something I want to develop. We just kind of got to the point where we just wanted them to be able to let us know if they could view it better and be able to pick up certain images. But I think that's the next step, is creating as said, that basically a guide to how you're going to look at it, and then find a way that we can make this. And we've talked a little bit about on how to put this into AWIPS. We're still kind of in that process right now. So yeah, that's the next step, is basically getting a guide to how you would interpret it, and then have them be able to access an AWIPS without us just having to send them the code and then they go in and edit it. It'd be nice if it was just automatic in AWIPS.
So I mean, and I don't know who else is on, if Emily is on or somebody, but to me, getting this into AWIPS is very, very simple. But maybe I'm wrong in that, because I would think it's just, you know, the different recipes within each RGB. You can make, you know, air mass RGB would be there, and then right under it, we would, in the menu with a different recipe, obviously, air mass RGB, you know, color deficiency, right? Like,
Yeah.
this is like, in my opinion, low-hanging fruit. So I don't know if anyone can like confirm if that's the case or not. And then maybe what we can do, because Scott Lindstrom has access to those quick guides, we can create quick guides very quickly. You know, and try to you know, get this process really moving along. Can Katie, do you know, or if I don't know if is Emily on, like, to me this would be very simple change in AWIPS within the derived parameter framework that the RGBs are done on. Do we know, Katie?
So it should be fairly simple. All we did was go into so we did it after it was already brought into AWIPS though, and then the code change as well. But I don't think it would be very difficult at all to have this put in. And that's kind of what we're meeting in that group, about what RGBs we want, basically, whether you want it created on the fly or sent to you as is. I think it'd be really simple to do. I just have to contact the right people to get it put into AWIPS. So.
Yeah, I think that this, to me, at least for those two, air mass RGB, water vapor RGB, yeah, right. I think this is fast. And the great thing about it is the Tower S team, you know, Lee Byerly and them can add this to an RPM update like very, very easily, and it's just 2 extra lines in the menu where, and you kind of like blast it out. And I mean, I know that you don't, we got to be careful calling this a disability because it's not considered that, but at the same time, you're really setting the groundwork here if you can get this in AWIPS very quickly. Like maybe it was just talking to the right people. And Lee, I don't know if you're on. It seems like this, like if you all and Jordan agreed, you know, to do this, it seemed like it would be really quick.
Yeah, well, this is Jordan. I'll just pipe in and say that I think that there's opportunities through the local menus to add these RGBs. We're starting to see a few new RGBs coming online lately, so I think that we can certainly add them there. People can find them and be rolled out with the next RPM. Probably not the next one, but the one after next, to be honest.
It's just it's a great way. I mean, yeah, it's really, really great. So you know, we're kind of running out of time. I'm trying to go back and look, and there's been some good conversation about other ethnic groups in color deficiency. Some good resources shared back and forth, which is, you know, really, really nice. One person said, I found a peer-reviewed article that found CVD is also prevalent among East Asian men, like 4.5 to 5%. You know, that's interesting. You know, Curtis said that I have heard several users from UMedSat that swapped some of the colors in the fire temperature RGB that he had a hand in developing to aid with interpretation for users with CVD. So I think anything like this to help make it easier for people, you know, would be a good thing. So Katie, before I pass it over to you know, back to Jordan, you know, do you have any closing thoughts? Any closing comments?
I think my closing thoughts is that, you know, I'm really excited about kind of the future of where this can go. But I think the best thing we can do is I need to contact, so I have all the contacts of everyone that did the survey. And I really want to contact everyone and see about a working group for this. As I said, you know, I don't have color vision deficiency. I'm not the expert in this. They're the experts. And I love to bring everyone together and talk about what are your needs? What are you know, talk about the newer RGBs. Where are you having issues? How are you dealing with these issues? How can we apply it to other people? Because especially, you know, for new people coming into the weather service that might have color vision deficiency, you know, they're going to need these tools to understand how they can make things easier for them to interpret. How do we show imagery to the public? For people in the public that have color vision deficiency. So I think I know kind of my next steps, and I think we can really create a lot of benefit for people getting, you know, either creating new RGBs or having tools and having training on how to edit these RGBs to make it easier for people to interpret. And I think the next step is just getting the forecasters that have color vision deficiency and want to help with this research, getting them all together and doing a focus group and doing a think tank, basically, of what are next steps. And it sounds like it should be really useful to maybe get these RGBs and AWIPs and then just get the information out. So I'm just really excited that I was able to present this, get some good feedback, and I'm hoping we can kind of continue this research and just you know, make things easier for people with color vision deficiency. That's the whole goal, is just to make things easier for them to interpret and to help them where we can, because that's what research should do. It should be able to help make things better for humans in the future.
Yeah, I agree. Really great job. I mean, yeah, this is great stuff. JJ, thank you for supporting, you know, this little side project. You know, it's you know, Katie's doing a great job, and it's important that STI in the Operations Proving Ground, along with the AFS portfolio in a way, support this kind of work and really to help these operational meteorologists in the field out.
Well, it's certainly been my pleasure. I mean, obviously, Katie has done all of the work, and it's phenomenal, and it's very easy to support. And I just hope that we can take this, we continue to take this work seriously and can make meaningful changes in operations, because that's, at the end of the day, if our people, even a small subset of our people
right.
can't properly interpret the data that's presented to them, that's a real problem, and it can lead to real consequences. So this is phenomenal, and yeah, great work again, and great presentation, Katie.
Yeah, great. And with that, Jordan, we'll turn it back to you. Thanks again for another great satellite book club session.
All right, thank you, Chad, and thanks again, Katie, for being with us today to share your work on the Color Vision Deficiency RGBs. I think those are have some promise to make our use of satellite data more inclusive across the National Weather Service. So really appreciate it, and be on the lookout in a future satellite book club for an update on the Tower S RPM, and when we can get that scheduled, we'll be talking with our team. Chad already mentioned that we continue the satellite book club every week. So next week, Thursday, August 26th at 12 noon Eastern time, Jeremy Michael from the Forecast Office in Tucson is going to be talking about using satellite imagery for monsoon operations in southeastern Arizona. So we'll head out west. And as always, feel free to contact our Tower S team, Lee Byerly, John Evans, Kashad Bowman, or find them in the NWS chat room, Tower-S, if you have any questions about satellite data in AWIPS at your office. So with that, as I already mentioned, hope your summer is coming to a successful conclusion as we head toward the end of the month, and hope everybody's staying well, and see you next week. Thank you.